Well, hello, my friend. So I imagine you're here on some level because you feel ready to connect more deeply to all aspects of who you are. The parts that you truly love, that excite you, that you're proud of, as well as the parts that you may consciously or unconsciously be repressing at this time. In today's video, we are stepping into a conversation with the shadow self. Now, the shadow self may sound spooky and mysterious, but from my perspective, our shadow is simply the aspect of ourself or aspects of ourself that we have chosen to conceal, that we are not aware of, that we may or may not feel shame or repression about. A journey into conversing with our shadow may actually reveal gifts, empowerment, areas within ourselves where wounding may be present. And so, if you feel inspired to move through today's conversation, I invite you to approach with a deep sense of compassion for all parts of yourself, with a spirit of curiosity, and ultimately with a choice to simply be clear with yourself without the requirement of having shame, blame, or guilt at any part of this journey. Because after all, from my perspective, you are an experimenter in the experience of life. Now, I'm Danielle Lynn, a pattern shifter, someone who has conversations with intentional creators such as yourself, who are choosing to remember how to be unified within themselves so that you can experience more of what you truly enjoy in the world around you. We have the ability to place our focus and our attention in many directions in our lives. And from my experience, what we consistently place our inner attention on is what we often experience, amplified and reflected around us. So when I'm speaking with rad people such as yourself, and we're discussing the nature and the possibilities of your life, the stories and the experiences that are going on, what I have found is the challenges and the joys of your life are providing you with hints about the inner tapestry that is currently being held active within your inner world. And for myself and those who have chosen to work with me, we have found it to be very efficient and effective to be observant and alert with the workings of our inner world, which in turn assist us in informing what might be consistently showing up in our outer world. It is said that what we resist within ourselves will show up in one way or another in our lives. When we block, when we suppress any aspect of ourselves, on some level, we are blocking and suppressing the totality of who we are. Because from my perspective, who we are contains within it all: the light, the dark, the perceived good, the perceived bad. Every element within you has a space at the table. And it is only when we push away who we truly are that we often find ourselves in conflict within that can show up as conflict around ourselves. Because you see, in my own life, I have found whatever challenge I am facing allows me an opportunity to see just how attached I am to a perceived story of what is, or if I'm simply meeting the moment with a certain sense of curiosity, a certain sense of lightness, a certain sense of discovery, of seeing more of what is possible, rather than attempting to insist what I think should be. And I have found in my own life, moving in this way allows me to not only have a more satisfying experience of life, but it allows me to more clearly see what is and make choices that are energy effective for me and those around me. Because it is my perspective that we are all naturally built in a way that allows us to thrive in our own unique ways, should we choose to listen, be aware of, and make choices that are in honor of who we truly are. And one of the places we often find ourselves in dishonor is with the aspects of ourselves that I will refer to as the shadow. The shadow is anything that we internally, or maybe even physically, viscerally, turn our attention away from. Perhaps we have a sense of shame, blame, guilt. Maybe there's a part of ourselves that rejects it, that calls it bad, not good, we want to change it. What I have found in my own life is that the shadow itself is nothing more than the aspects within that are being unloved. When we approach our shadow from a place of curiosity, a place of negotiation, a place of communication, these aspects of ourselves, and we start to realize that we are simply, when we are pushing away our shadows on some level, perpetuating rejection within ourselves. The path of exploring one's shadow can be very intense, because sometimes it brings us face to face with things that we've looked away from for years. But in my own life, I have found it to be a deeply rewarding journey that not only has allowed me more peace and a sense of unity within myself, but has connected me to a deeper sense of playfulness and empowerment in the world. Because I have found when you choose to bring awareness to the places within yourself that you feel the deepest fear, you discover oftentimes that that fear, through your awareness, naturally is transmuted. And much like washing the dirt off a gem, reveals a crystalline treasure within. I am inviting us to explore aspects of self and perspectives that I imagine will help you more deeply connect to some perceived shadows or perceived repressive parts of yourself, as we continue to connect to who we truly are. When we focus on the challenge or on a perceived problem from the place of wanting to fix it, or thinking, if I fix the challenge or problem, it will resolve my inner state, then what we are doing is we are placing our energy outside of ourselves. We are saying something outside of me has the power to tilt me. It has the power to determine whether I am having a good day or bad day, whether my life is going in the direction I want or not. This may seem like a commonplace occurrence. After all, you might look around and witness there are many people in life choosing to respond in this way, consciously or unconsciously. The perspective that I will offer you is that challenges are only as big of a deal as we make them. If one was to look at the field of life as a giant theater of improvisation, I'm going to say that a different way. If someone was to look at life as a big theater of improvisation, one might discover that you can approach life with a same yes and spirit. What I'm referring to is an improv theater. You have a collection of people on a stage, and they are given a scenario, and one person might start and another person responds, but the general rule is simply yes and. No one resists the scenario being set up. However, as an improviser, you have the ability to meet the moment with a yes, say and then from there, guide the momentum of the set. In a similar way, in life, we are in essence improvisers who are able to go yes and to any quality of life that is presenting itself to us. Whether it's the darkest, most painful experience you could imagine, or something very lighthearted and silly. Every single experience in your life has the opportunity to be yes and did. Where it can appear that you do not have power or choice often comes from having an invested momentum into an idea or a belief structure that has been perceived to have been experienced for a long period of time. And therefore, on some level, we have convinced ourselves that we do not have power to make a new choice. It's very much like the stories of baby elephants when they had been captured and they would be chained up by the leg, and they would pull and pull and pull and see they couldn't remove the chain, so they gave up. And when they were adults, they didn't attempt to pull the chain because they had retained the memory that they were unable to move the chain. And yet, as an adult elephant, they would easily be able to move their leg and pull out the chain. But they were continuing to process their current situation from the memory of a past pattern without experimenting on the current possibilities available to them. In a similar way, many of us have had these experiences from childhood where we had others act upon our personal power, telling us yes or no, for a stretch of time. And once we had exited childhood, some of us continued to perpetuate those patterns because that is what was known. And there's a certain amount of self-love that goes into perpetuating patterns. This is one reason why there's never any need to feel shame, blame, or guilt about these things, from my perspective, because we are always operating from the most resonant pathway that we know in every given moment. When we are approaching something new, we are actually entering the field of the unknown. Because you see, one of the reasons the mind can feel very challenged by change is because the mind, from my experience, does not have as much of a say when you are entering the threshold of the unknown, because the mind operates from what is known. And from my experience, it is your heart center that actually navigates you through the depths of the unknown. If you're ever curious whether you're being guided by the mind or the heart, the mind attempts to convince. The mind needs reasons. The mind has lists. The mind convinces. The heart acts. The heart knows. The heart feels peace and grounding. The heart simply is. It doesn't require a series of explanations in order to move. But I'll add additionally that from my experience, the heart isn't something that's excited or big or, oh, I'm making a leap from the heart. From my experience, the answers that come from the heart are actually very peaceful. They're actually very grounded. And so if you're experiencing a certain sense of overzealous excitement or nervousness, it may be an invitation to sit with that a little further, to allow those feelings to feel, until you get to the gooey center of what the actual answer is, beyond the excitement, beyond the known, beyond the unknown. There simply is the answer. And in my experience, we always have access to the answer. It may simply be our experiences of conditioning or unconditioning that tell us it's not safe to look at the answer. Because especially if we have a certain fear of the unknown, and this can come in the form of what will happen to my house, what will happen to my job, what will happen to my family, what will happen to my life, what will people think, what will happen. This is the part of self that wants control. So when some people think about manifesting, they think in terms of, right, I'll manifest so much money so I can keep things this way, so it'll turn out the way I think it needs to. And what these conversations represent is something I find quite different than that. Because in my own life, this is not an attempt to control or power my way through life. I don't find that particularly efficient in my own life, and I really enjoy having a nice, pleasant journey. For me, and for some that I have connected with, the experience that is available comes from a deep understanding that at any given moment, no matter how dire your situation is, there is always a step you can take in the present moment. You may not be having an experience that you prefer overall, and that's all right. This may be built up of momentum that was perpetuated until this moment, and that's all right. Sometimes I say to people when they ask, well, why would I have made this choice, or why would I be here? It can be beneficial to consider at what level did you make that choice? It may not have been at the level of the ego self or the human self, but it may have been at the level of a more expanded self or a subconscious self that you made this choice. And so when we talk about connecting with the perceived shadow parts of self, in a sense, we're bringing everybody's conversation to the table. Many times when I speak to people who have, they call it subconscious self-sabotage, happens because there's an aspect of yourself. There's an aspect of yourself that requires voice, advocacy, breath, a seat at the table of your life, so to speak. And it can sometimes be suppressed for a period of time. You can sometimes hold your breath for a period of time. Eventually, the breath comes through. Eventually, the energy is released. It's sort of like pulling back a rubber band. Some call this excess potential, attempting to create your way out of connecting with your shadows or your unseen parts of self. Simply create more momentum that will be shifted once it's time. It's sort of like hiding something under a rug, then placing something on that rug and placing something else on that rug, but then eventually when the rug comes off, so will everything else that was set on top of it. And so it can be a lot more loving to oneself to simply connect with the present moment, to be aware and say, what within me would like to be seen or heard? Many times I have found the things that we fear the most inside of ourselves are often the portals through which we authentically connect with ourselves and with others. I have found that what we often fear in others or the world around us carries within it a thread or a hint of where you may not be meeting yourself inside. I have found, however, that when you are clear within yourself, when you commune with the inner parts of yourself, when you are willing to have a discussion with the terrifying dark beast within, you start to realize that this once shadowy, scary figure was in essence simply the parts of yourself that were not given love. They were parts of yourself that were told that they are unacceptable, that they are no good, that they need to change, they need to go away, they need to stop. Whether it was through family experiences, society, whether it was something internalized, maybe something you simply believed or read. I see this when I observe others attack others, whether it's through words or whether it's through actual acts of attack. On some level, it is an external acting out of the war within. Because those who have a deep sense of love within themselves naturally do not find any requirement to perpetuate or act onto another outside of themselves. When we address our own inner areas of being unloved, it allows us portals of compassion not only within, but a deeper understanding of others around, which may inspire us to make choices that are more likely to result in deep integration of ourselves, but also the world around us. If you like, here is one moment where you can connect with that part of yourself within. So, if you like, go ahead and take a breath in and a breath out. Now, if you like, you can put your hand on your chest and on your gut. Breath in and out. And on this next breath in, you have an opportunity to simply say, inside or out, I am here. If I have ignored you consciously or unconsciously, I am truly sorry. But in all the ways that are authentic to me, I am choosing now to be curious. I may not fully understand you just yet, but I am curious. And I am more interested in choosing a path together that is going to be mutually respectful and harmonious than I am interested in fighting or pushing away any longer. I may not know what I don't know, but I am curious enough to explore. And then go ahead and take a breath in. And then just allow the breath to roll out. You might notice there's certain parts of yourself, you might feel in your body certain parts relax just a little bit. Ease your shoulders back. This represents a beginning of a conversation, should you choose to have it. An opportunity for you to continue to connect within. using journals, sitting, meditating with yourself. You might simply speak out loud. For me, it was very much like forging a friendship, but perhaps with someone that I had animosity with at some point, but now I'm coming to a new understanding with.
Enlightened audio.
At the time of making this video, we would be shortly here releasing at the time of making this video, one of my own trainings on internal family systems, a variation of it, will be coming out currently in the Alchemy lab. Otherwise, you can check the description for where you can sign up or register for that training and experience. This is one of my own practices on how you can deepen this conversation within yourself in a way that facilitates genuine self-unity towards your own empowerment, towards a deeper sense of inner groundedness, and is one of the foundational keys I find for reality creation. So please feel invited to check the description link for that. And in all cases, it's been such a delight to talk today. If this video has been of assistance, please consider sharing, subscribing. And in the comments, I would love to hear how your experience of this was, and perhaps what questions you have to go even deeper. And in all cases, I look forward to our next conversation.